Hi, I'm Jon Stahl. We're going to now talk about some key Agile explained concepts. So one of the first concepts is whole team. So one of the most complicated things of a system of knowledge workers is people, right? And so if you want to be consistent with anything, you need to remove variability, okay? And the way we do that is we fix the team, okay? So we take a bunch of smart people, put them in a room, and we say, okay, let's not mix it up. We're going to storm, norm, perform. We're going to figure out how to work well together. We're going to then try to improve our team by bringing in skills or people we need to do to improve our flow and how we work. If we keep loaning people to projects on a percentage basis or anything, we continually have to figure out how to work together as humans. Okay, and so again, if you want to be consistent, remove the biggest variable, fix the teams. That means our goal is to reorganize you into standing teams. Okay. The goal is to have all the right skills for a project, I'd like to say product, that people are empowered as a team. This is one of the reasons there's a lot less management when you go Agile, because we're taking people in a room saying, you guys, we're going to teach you how to do modern product delivery and give you all these practices, and you're going to select how you actually work. We're going to give you the desired business outcome or the priority. You're all going to use your collective knowledge and wisdom to actually produce value. Some things are going to get blocked, some things aren't going to flow. You guys will talk about that on an iterative, incremental basis, and you'll adapt what you do as a standing team. It's kind of like a sports team, right? You don't redraft the NFL every year and assume that you're going to have a competitive league. You have a lot of average teams if you continually redraft it, right? Everybody would probably be batting 500 against each other. So what you want to do is you want to say, well, I have a team, okay, I need a stronger quarterback, I need a stronger coach, I need a stronger receiver. And so you'll constantly adapt that team, trying to improve the winning, right? The productivity, the output of that team. So it's no different. And this is a big deal because most organizations don't want to hear that their kingdoms aren't built correctly and their hierarchy isn't right and that we're going to do this. I'm not saying, and initially you're going to have so much specialization in silos. This is actually going to be really hard to do because you've built all these independent knowledge workers that are very specialized. And because of that, they aren't very interchangeable. They aren't very T-shaped, which I'll talk about next. The next key concept is open workspace. So, clearly, working in an open environment is really important to be a high-performing team. Be able to look across the room and call out your team member that you need help or you need to exchange knowledge. This is probably one of the most complicated practices in Agile. It's also one of the most fearful ones because people don't want to work in open workspace. If you look in our book, there's actually 3 or 4 pages for open workspace. We spend a lot of time, we do workshops just on designing open workspace. There's a lot of tricks to this and how do you get people in an open workspace to behave and be kind of responsible adults and caring adults and mindful co-workers. There's lots of rules. For example, we try to make sure that it's okay to have music and we have a team agreement. So how are we going to behave in our workspace? We have things like team debts. So if you're going to be sloppy and leave dirty coffee cups around, that's not cool because I'm not cleaning up after you. So maybe you owe a couple of dollars, not because we want your money, but we have to be able to pick on each other and say, no, one of our team norms are that we aren't all going to be slobs. Or we might do practices like, hey, every Friday after stand-up, we're going to put on polka music and we're going to clean for 15 minutes, right? So that when we come back on Monday, our place is fresh. We're going to make sure we don't leave cell phones unattended, right? And they're constantly buzzing and driving people nuts. So most people that don't like open workspace isn't because of the open workspace, it's because of the behaviors of their coworkers, right? That really make that annoying or make that an uncomfortable place. It's not about introvert, extrovert. It's like, God, I can't stand that Josh leaves his coffee cup around or Amy's cell phone is constantly buzzing, all day long. There's usually little annoyances. They're saying, okay, I need to go to my cubicle or my sensory deprivation chamber, like we like to call it, so that I can have, pictures of my kids and sports teams or whatever creature comforts I want around me. All those are solvable problems too, right? We can put a skin on your laptop with pictures of your family. We could give you a locker, right, to store your personal belongings so you have a place to go home. So there's a lot to open workspace, and I've seen entire Agile movements die because it's not the open workspace, it's the people can't figure out how to collaborate and talk about things that bother them in an open workspace and then create team agreements or team rules that support that. So we'll talk about retrospectives later. We'll even do retrospectives just on Workspaces. Lean Dog's on a boat. We do boat retrospectives to talk about what's working and not working on the boat. Our environment's constantly changing. Meetups are coming and going. Companies are coming and going. So we're constantly adapting our open workspace to make it a better place. We spend a lot of time here, but it is a fundamental aspect. Clearly in this distributed world now, it's a lot different, and there's a lot of ways we can talk about distributed Agile later. But how do you still have that open workspace feel, or that hey team, or looking across the room and seeing if somebody's busy or concentrating or focusing or needs your help? How do you do that in the distributed world? There is technology that really supports that, and that's another topic we'll cover in a future time in this course or in Q&A. So there's a lot of studies about open workspace and why it's so much more productive. I'm not going to read you case studies, but usually that's how you get high performing, is because you have that transparency and that respect for each other, and that lets you go faster because you do more waste, right? You aren't constantly going from meeting to meeting to meeting. You meet just enough. You say, hey, I need to talk to you for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, not schedule an hour meeting on Zoom or whatever, and then assuming we have to consume that whole hour, and you're just going from meeting to meeting. So another big benefit of open workspace is that just enough feature. Like I get just enough information to do what I need to do to move on. I don't have to schedule time to try to gather a whole bunch of information. I can just go and grab that knowledge from another knowledge worker so that I can get my work done and get unblocked. So lots of reasons why open workspace work. Complicated topic, and we do workshops just on this. One of the things when I walk into an open workspace, if you tell me, hey, I'm Agile, if I walk into your space and everybody's sitting there and they're quiet and they have headphones on, you aren't Agile, right? You're not openly sharing knowledge and exchanging knowledge. You're basically recreating your sensory deprivation chamber by putting on headphones. I want to hear people talking, because what we do is apply knowledge to solve business value. So whether I'm coding, I'm testing, I'm managing, I'm writing story cards, by talking through that with somebody, I'll actually be more efficient than if I just did it by myself. So we pair on everything at Lean Dog, because pairing makes us do just enough and do more. You could even take writing an email and you can overdo it. I need to influence a CIO, so I can spend 2 hours writing an email or 2 minutes, right? But if I pair with someone, that person might say, hey, okay, that's enough. Or, you know what, if this is so complicated, why don't we just call the person? So we can use inflection and tone instead of written, right? And so you'll find a lot less waste when you're working in an open workspace, but it doesn't happen if you don't open your mouth and communicate. So, I tell people there's two bad, if you're a parent, there's two bad sounds, right? Complete silence or kicking and screaming. When I walk into a high-performing team, there's a buzz. There's a bunch of people talking about knowledge and how to code this, how to test this, how to write this email, how to write these story cards. And that's how I know that they're being high-performing, because they're cross-training, they're constantly sharing knowledge, and they're doing just enough. So it's a big part of this. This also requires that people have the attitude and aptitude to become a T-shaped person, right? So you go to school, you get your degree, right? You come out, and you're judged by that one thing I do. Can I write code? Can I test? Whatever it is. High-performing teams are willing to do other things, right? If you've ever been part of the startup, part of the fun of a startup is I don't do the same thing every day. It changes, right? I can go downstream, upstream. One day I'm on a sales call, and other days I'm doing product delivery. And so that variability is very important for high-performing people and continually learning. So while most of the time we want you to stay in your sweet spot of what you're doing, you're probably not optimized to do that right away. So I want somebody in the team that isn't going to hoard information. They aren't going to be, I don't need the best coder that knows everything about Java or .NET or Ruby. I need somebody who understands enough to be a productive person, and they don't need to be the deepest in the subject. They just need to be productive in the subject. And so that's a key part of this, is having people that can be T-shaped. If we come in and they just want to hoard knowledge and not share knowledge, they probably aren't going to work well on an Agile team, because the fundamental thing is that everybody is capable of everything, and everybody will share everything they know all the time. And that's a key element of Agile. So we'll, again, do more information radiators around what skills people have, what knowledge, who can be mentors, who can help other people, right? So we take a lot of value on education and cross-training. Another important part is sustainable pace. Again, I talked about earlier, if you want to improve throughput or predictability, you need to reduce variables. Okay, it's maybe where my econ degree might have came in. And the idea is that if we fix the team, that team works a hard 40, we need to stabilize the hours, because if I'm young in my career and I don't have a lot of family commitments, I can work 60 hours one week or 70 or 80. We're changing our hours, right? And that's not fair to the team. You know, I got ahead early in my career because I could work harder and longer because I had less outside commitments. Doesn't mean I was smarter. I could just work more hours, and I got compensated for that. That's not what we're trying to do. We want to stabilize your work hours. We call it sustainable pace because, while we do encourage 40-hour weeks, you are professionals and there are emergencies, right? And there are times where the whole team needs to go above and beyond a 40. But if you do that on a consistent basis, you're going to burn out. If you do it on a consistent basis, it's not fair. For example, if I'm traveling and I go to my hotel and I crank out 50 emails because I don't have to go home tonight, and the next morning you all wake up and you're copied on 50 emails, I just threw more work at you, okay? And just because I had capacity, and now you have something to respond to or read or process. So we're really trying to curtail the work hours and keep that down. I've even had companies turn on and off their email servers at the beginning and the end of every day so that kind of work couldn't happen. But it is important to be sustainable in what you do and not vary your work hours. Yeah, you might have to do a hero moment every once in a while, but it's the whole team. It's not one person. It's the whole team that has to do that. So sustainable pace, very important to give people time to work. You know, a good team has a good work-life balance, right? And that's what makes happy people. Happy people make high-performing teams. So that's important. We talked earlier about information radiators, and you know, the other point about information radiators, and the reason we use paper to do it, is it's super easy to change. I don't have to have access to the right tool or software to actually edit it and update it. So if information is incorrect, I can change it. In Agile, some information radiators are your work, which we call your story card wall, which we'll talk about, your roadblocks, your burn down charts, your QA, you know, what's going on in production, what things are you trying to improve as a team. Again, humans, it's really easy to look across the room and just agree, because humans want to agree. So I can nod, yeah, we're on the same page, Josh. But when we start making it physical, and we realize, wow, we really aren't on the same page, now we can converge and we can start getting to reality. What matters is that we get the business outcome, not necessarily how we do the work, but that we got the right business outcome, because that's what we're here to do. So whatever processes and tools and practices we do to do that, that's up to us as a team to figure out. But the goal is to get that right, to have a laser focus on what we're trying to do, and to get it done with all the knowledge workers in the room. So information radiators are really important. I'm not a big tool fan, although in this distributed age we're much more reliant on tools. There's not a lot of substitute for making things physical. And this is kind of a duh moment in this day and age, I guess, is that you have to deliver frequently, right? So small incremental delivery, the best product delivery companies in the world are shipping features every day and you don't even know it, right? It just happens, right? And so that's the way the world's coming. It's not big bang, let's get a whole bunch of things done and push a big release. It's you're incrementally getting it. And not only are you getting it, it's zero defect, and the usability is so great, and the design thinking on it was so great that you don't even need trained on how to use it. It's just, you can use it. And that's modern product delivery. That's the Amazons, the Googles. Like, you don't even know the features they're adding because it's not obvious. It just works, and it works better. So this is an example of a story code wall. So we really want to make our work physical. I tell people you can use tools too, but you probably want to pay someone to make it physical as well, because there's a satisfaction of going out and physically moving a card to do this. But again, in the distributed world, that's a little different these days. Important. Kanban we'll talk about later. So understanding flow and when things are waiting for other knowledge workers is important. So we're going to cover Scrum and Kanban in this course, and Scrumban. So that'll be coming up here soon. Roadblocks are important. So again, we're building high-performing teams who are self-powered. They need to tell us when things are blocked. So when is your work stuck? I can't do things because I don't have knowledge. I can't do things because we don't have the skills. Right? So when does work stop? And how can we, in the future iterations or weeks, prevent that work from stopping? Okay, so it's not your manager's job to remove the blocker. It's your job to say, I'm blocked, and everybody's job to help remove those blocks. So by saying I can't do something, and that's wasteful when business value isn't getting delivered, that's the team's job to do that. So making blockers visible is really important. So let's talk about this concept. So now that we're fixing the team, okay, we're flipping what I like to call the waterfall triangle to an agile triangle. So you have the typical cost, scope, time, and then quality in the middle, right? So in waterfall, right, you would try to have a plan-driven approach. You try to estimate things out. You would try to deliver, and you know, you expect these hero moments to try to fill in for the weaknesses. In Agile, we're fixing the team. So we're saying, hey, we got a team of 12 to 20 people, and I'll talk about that versus what Scrum says. We believe in bigger teams. But you're fixing the team, and you're fixing their hours. You're saying you're working hard 40. So I'm going to put a dozen or more people in a room. I'm going to give them empowered to figure out how they work. We don't tell them how they work. We educate them and let them decide how they work. Then have them work hard 40 and go home. So now all I've done is I've kind of fixed a couple things. The only thing I can change is the what. What do we work on? Okay, and this is a very fundamental distinction between Agile and Waterfall. Is we're fixing the people, we're fixing their hours, and then we're trying to work on the highest value thing we can do. All we can do is be in this continual learning environment that's open and transparent, sharing everything we know, working as hard as we can, not goofing off, having fun but not goofing off, and at the end of the day, we go home. Okay, so if I tried to deliver a feature or a card and everybody did the best they could do, that's all I can really ask, right? Is that we all did the best we could to get this one card moving across the wall and done. And so if we didn't get it done, there's something wrong with how we're working, or we didn't have the knowledge, or we got blocked a lot. So now in the next week, let's try to get better, and let's figure out how do we reduce the blockers that were impeding us from getting things done. So that's a big shift from Agile to Waterfall is that we're fixing 2 of the 3 triangles, right? And the only thing we can change is scope, right? Quality is always up to everybody, okay? So that doesn't change. So a lot of people, Michelle and Stacia wrote this book called The Software Project Management Agility, and they basically went through and mapped traditional, aka Waterfall, to Agile. So we have spreadsheets on this. They have a book they wrote. The PMI obviously recognizes that Agile as you know, okay, now they have all their certifications, but nonetheless, this is helpful to hang up in your Agile rooms. Okay, in Waterfall we used to do it this way, in Agile we do it this way. What you'll find is that everything you need to do in a Waterfall world, you do it in Agile, you just do it more often in smaller increments, and everybody does it. There isn't a project manager that has to check all these boxes. Everybody understands that we have to do cost management or vendor management or procurement or you know, budget scope. All those things are the job of everybody on the team. Everybody's responsible for business outcomes. So this is well proven. So let's talk about those concepts. What questions you might have.